Good evening. My name is Robert Thompson. I'm a captain with the Beulah Fire Protection Ambulance District, and my purpose tonight is to discuss the 2016 annual analysis. I'm doing this as part of my studies at Eastern Kentucky University for FSE400 Advanced Emergency Services Administration. Um, and we're in week 8, and I'm doing my final project and graduating in a couple days. So, very first thing that I want to discuss, and I want people to keep in mind, I've chosen to bring up the mission statement so that we can all keep in mind exactly what we're here for. And if we do that, then really we can create some great good for those that we serve. So our mission is to protect the lives and property of our residents and visitors from fire and critical health threats. The district will strive to prevent fire and serious injury through comprehensive education and prevention programs. The district will respond quickly and effectively, making the most use of our community's resources. It is really our commitment and responsibility to uphold this mission statement, as we must strive to base all district goals to align with it, while being fiscally responsible and providing the best services available. So I want you to keep that in mind throughout our discussion today. If you really think about, once again, providing the highest quality, most fiscally responsible service available to our residents, then this should really be a no-brainer. You will see that there's some very big shortcomings within our district, and some things that need to be addressed and that we can make a difference with. A little quick background. The Beulah Fire Protection District was established in January 2013 after voter approval in November of 2012. And that was as the result of the merger between Beulah Valley Volunteer Fire Department and Beulah Ambulance District. At that time in 2012, there were some concerned citizens, the Volunteer Fire Department being 100% donation based and 100% reliant on volunteer responders, was really having a hard time keeping up with everything financially and meeting the demands of the future. We're in a very unique area, very high wildland urban interface area, and really people saw a need. And a lot of our apparatus at that time of the merger in 2013, our oldest apparatus was a 1950 Chevrolet with a 250-gallon tank on it. Didn't even have seat belts for our responders. So those are some of the things. We had an aging, and we still do. We have a very old fleet, and it's time that we step up and get that done. So the voters spoke back then in 2012, and they really initiated that whole process. So that's something that was really neat. BFPAD is an all-risk department. We provide fire, EMS, hazmat, and rescue services. We have one paid staff member, being the fire chief, and currently 33 volunteer responders, and those ranks have really swelled since the 2013 merger. A lot of the responders that were originally with those two agencies, separated from us, and then now that they've seen what a great job and seen a demand, a need in the community, they've really come back to us, and it's been a great thing. So, a lot of that's been attributed to our chief and to responders that stuck around and making it really a professional organization that provides a great service, and people are really willing to and excited to be part of it. So we're literally sometimes having to turn people away just because we have too many people that are coming. And I really want to point out that this BFPAD would not be, our success would not be made available if it had not been for the efforts of members of the volunteer fire department, clear back from the 1950s to the Beulah Ambulance District. So that's really, we got to keep that in mind. They've really set the ground rules, or the ground foundation for us to be a great agency. Currently, we're supported with a 13.5 mil levy, which was approved in once again November of 2012, and just recently in November of 2016, we did have a voter approval for capital improvements, including a Station 1 construction and the purchasing of two 3,000-gallon water tenders, which we will discuss further. But that has not quite gone into effect yet, but that'll eventually go up to 22.5 mil levy in support of those projects as we go along here. I really want to quickly touch upon ISO rating. ISO rating is essentially it's an insurance services organization. They essentially go out and audit fire departments based on looking at the fire department's capabilities in the apparatus that they have, the tools that they have available, their staffing, what type of department is it, a career or volunteer, their response times, what risks they have. They look at the communications, which are communication centers in Pueblo County, due to the CSEP funding and so forth. The Chemicals Stockpile Emergency Preparedness Plan has provided a great amount of money to our Pueblo County Sheriff's Central Communication Center that dispatches all of the resources in Pueblo County. And it's really an up-to-date, state-of-the-art system, and we owe them a great gratitude for what they've done for us. So they also look at water supply, whether that be municipal water supply or perhaps even water tenders. So just real quickly, the Beulah area, if you're not on a well or a cistern, then you're living in Beulah, and you're only the 2%, 2 to 5% of our population within our district that actually has available to them municipal water supply. So with that being said, only 2 to 5% of our area, 111 square mile area, having access to hydrants is a great hindrance. So prior to our ISO audit in 2016, the summer of 2016, our ISO rating was a 6.9. So that 6, having a lower number, equates to having lower insurance premiums due to the fire department and water capabilities and communication capabilities within that area being evaluated, being Beulah Fire Protection District. A 9 obviously is not as good of a rating, so those with a 9 are essentially paying higher insurance premiums, which costs our residents more money. So what that also equates to, this is only with fire response, it's not EMS response. So you'll hear me refer to ISO, and just keep in mind that's only with fire. But ISO really kind of sets the guidelines. It's used as a tool to tell us, hey, what do we need to improve on, and gives us something to strive towards. So by lowering ISO ratings, we're guaranteeing that we're providing better services to our residents. Okay, so the new ISO rating went from a 4 to a 9, or a 4.9. So obviously those that aren't served by hydrants are staying at that 9. The 4s were those 6s that were dropped down. A lot of that's contributed to improvements in the apparatus that we have, the PPE that our responders have, our staffing arrangements and so forth, available staff at any one time, and our equipment available to our firefighters in the way of SCBAs and ladders and ropes and all that stuff. So we've really, since 2013, that's a huge accomplishment, and we probably met those goals within the first year. They also look at the fire department training records and how much we train and our standards and so forth. So Beulah Fire Protection District has really been striving to get to national standards throughout the whole thing, and it costs a lot of money. Firefighting equipment's not cheap. So the current goal of the district is to provide obviously better services, to the best services available to our residents, which will also reduce ISO rating. And we're looking at a minimum reducing that 9 area, those currently 9 rated areas, down to a 6, if not a 4. Our ISO representative actually told us that our ISO, the only thing holding us back in those 9 areas was water supply. And having 2 3,000-gallon water tenders would guarantee us going from a 9 to a 6, if not maybe even a 4. So obviously there's some requirements on those water tenders and so forth. But as we will discuss and we will see here momentarily, really we can't acquire those two pieces of apparatus simply due to apparatus storage availability or housing availability, and some of the restrictions that our current Station 1 impose on that and our ability of getting apparatus. We've literally had to, as a district, deny 2 donations of perfectly good modern pieces of fire apparatus in the way of pumpers simply because they won't fit in our buildings. So that's something to keep in mind. This ISO and improvement of services will be accomplished through projects as discussed within this presentation. So real quickly, we're going to look at the 2016 responses. We had a total of 230 incidents, 138 EMS and 111 fire. So EMS 55% of our calls, and fire were 45. I want you to keep in mind that the fire calls are not all structure fires or wildland fires. Those are call for service for search and rescue and that type of stuff, non-EMS, anything, utility problems, any of that stuff. So I have a breakdown of those fire responses here in a moment. I do want you to note that some EMS responses require fire responses as well, or vice versa. So when that happens, we actually draw 2 CRs, one EMS and one fire, or call generation, response generation. That is accounted for in these numbers. So this does not increase the overall total number of responses. If we have both dual EMS and fire, it's all going to be counted as one response. So obviously you see 138 and 111 don't add up to 230, but that helps explain that to you. So we're looking at the overall 2016 fire responses. Once again, we had 111 fire responses, 15 of which were structure fires. And unfortunately, 8 of those were due to the Beulah Hill fire, which started October 3rd of 2016. And is pictured up here in the upper right-hand corner. We experienced an extreme drought, and we did have a very wet spring last year, which attributed to great growth of vegetation and so forth, which unfortunately just dried up and cured out whenever the rain had stopped for several months. And on that day, we had extremely high winds. The fire was sparked by a Colorado Department of Transportation tractor working on the shoulder of the road up in this area, and unfortunately, it took off, and we lost eight structures, and luckily no injuries. But 2 weeks later, we also had the Beulah Hill fire was accounted for approximately 7,500 acres. And 2 weeks to the date, on Monday, October 17th, we had the Junkins Hill fire, which started in Custer County to the west, extended into Beulah within several hours, with being fueled by 80, 90 mile an hour winds and extremely dry vegetation and so forth. And unfortunately, they lost multiple, upwards of 20 homes in the Custer County area. We were fortunate enough to not lose any more homes in Beulah, but between those 2 fires, we lost 25,000 acres in a 2-week period. So that just tells you the risk that we face here in Beulah, and our residents see that. And unfortunately, they had to witness this right before the election and so forth, and that probably got some of those people that were on the fence about the new fire station mill levy approval, and got them pushed on the other side in approving it. You see that we had 23 wildfire responses. We had 11 false calls or smoke reports. Often we get calls of smoke, which they just end up being a cloud or whatever, but we encourage our residents to call for everything. We'd much rather go find that it's a low-lying cloud than a smoke call, and we want to catch them when they're small, and instead of big, huge things like that take multiple homes. Obviously, rescue calls, we have 18 of those. We had 19 service calls, 10 utility problems. That might include everything from a line or a tree branch in a utility line to a propane leak at a house. We had 12 standbys or other calls. Those standbys greatly increased since last year, probably due to the fact that the state of Colorado voter approved legalization of recreational marijuana, and Pueblo County has really become a mecca in that industry for the state of Colorado with multiple legalized grows, but we've also seen an influx of illegal grows, and a lot of those standbys are us going out and supporting those law enforcement agencies conducting raids and so forth, and doing standbys and doing air quality monitoring in confined space and so forth for them. So we had an additional 3 that were attributed to severe weather, whether it be flooding or severe large snowfall deals requiring responses and tornado warnings or whatever. I do want to point out, I mentioned this earlier, that 2016 was our highest call volume to record thus far. We've seen it steadily increasing. I believe the year before that we were at 200. So we've just been stepping up. We were seeing a rather large influx of growth in our district. A lot of people moving into this area and constructing actually very rather large homes. So next, we're looking at the 2016 EMS responses. We once again had 138 responses there, and I once again forgot to include those numbers, the total number there, but we had 29 traumatic injuries or incidents. We had 109 medical incidents. However, I didn't, I just broke them down a little bit further. We had 12 difficulty breathing, 15 chest pain, 1 deceased, 2 stroke, and 76 others. And those others may be, grandma stubbing her toe or just not feeling well or being experiencing some hypertension, high blood pressure, or whatever, and wanting to be transported to town for evaluation. Or it might be bringing somebody home from the hospital to back to their home, perhaps for Thanksgiving dinner, or unfortunately for hospice, in-home hospice care or so forth. Next, we're looking at scene time. We have the 2010 here as compared to 2013. 2010 obviously was prior to the inception of Beulah Fire Protection District, and that had really been the standard for quite some time. We were seeing those numbers. So obviously this was attributed to really no infrastructure changes. It was just managerial, administrative changes from that 2010 to 2013. So in 2010, obviously, we see response times averaging approximately 13 minutes with average scene time of 19 minutes or approximately there. In 2013, obviously with the inception of Beulah Fire, one of the very first things we did is required at least 3 personnel on at all times, and they were cross-trained in fire and EMS. Then that allows for ensuring that we have responders, and many of those responders stay right at our district offices during the day and so forth, and that enhances our ability to get them out the door rather quickly. Whereas compared to 2010, a lot of our responders were responding directly from home. Some of them, we may only have 1 person on at any one time, and they just really simply couldn't respond. But we've done a few things, and really it hasn't been due to any infrastructure changes or improvements, station locations or anything like that. So really we've been stagnant since 2013. The numbers really haven't changed, but I do want to point out that those current response and scene times are well below regional and Colorado state averages currently. So that's a really big thing. That's a big accomplishment in itself there. And that really helped attribute to perhaps our ISO improvement and so forth. The other thing really that we administratively decided upon is that previously a lot of times we'd sit and play or stabilize a patient, and that is required at times, but there's when you're 45 minutes away from your nearest hospital and transport time to definitive care, it's really in the best interest of our patients to get loaded up and transported as quickly as possible to that definitive care. Sometimes we can't do much good for them out in the field, so we need to get them there as quickly as possible. And a lot of that's also through the utilization of helicopters and so forth through Fly for Life and other agencies. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the standard of coverage and response. We're going to discuss some of the needs. That's really going to start seeing some problems that we need to address here, and the voters have been well educated on and so forth, and resulted in a mill levy increase once again in 2016 November. So this map here shows the district highlighted in this red here. It's 111 square miles. Once again, it's a agricultural area, rather high arid desert area. This would be the east side of the district, the north, the south, and the west side. On the west side, we have the district borders Senesville National Forest and includes much of that. And actually, approximately 30% of our district actually lies in the National Forest there. This is Highway 78, which goes all the way up to Highway 165 to the west, and then to the east to Pueblo. So it's a 28-mile drive from Beulah to Pueblo, where most people, most of the 2,500 residents that live within the district actually commute to go to work. You'll see Siloam Road here, 3R Road here, Water Barrel here, and then you'll see several of these little blue dots, which is residences or structures that are known to the district and mapped by GIS. So you can see a concentration along Highway 78 up Siloam. We're getting an increased concentration. We're seeing a building boom down here in Signal Mountain subdivision, which is a huge subdivision accessed off of 3R Road, and a lot of homes being built down in this area. But you'll see the highest concentration obviously is in Beulah. Beulah proper itself. Beulah is an unincorporated town within Colorado that's nestled basically right up against the wet mountains of the southeastern front range there of the Rocky Mountains. So it's a beautiful little area. Our district goes from about 5,500, 5,800 foot in elevation all the way up to, we go up to basically 9,000. So we have a pretty big variation there with light grassy fields out here to the east in our kind of foothills and ponderosa pine stands with Gamble Oak to the west. Another thing to take into account is only this area right here, Beulah proper, approximately, is 2 to 5% of our total district area. And those homes, which obviously, once again, is a pretty high concentration there, only those homes are serviced with hydrants. The rest of the district out here is totally reliant on wells and cisterns. So you see a lot of people hauling water in for municipal use or for residential use, or having to drill a well and relying on electricity to get that water pumped up into their homes and so forth. So this area out here would be that 9, while this in here would be that 4 now on the ISO rating. So let's move on to the next slide. Standard of coverage and response, current station and proposed station locations. So this map here, you can see Station 1 located on Grant Avenue in Beulah proper, right there in the kind of the middle of that dense area that we were seeing in the previous map. Just to the east of that, next little red dot, I'm trying to point, but for some reason my mouse isn't working. This one here is located at Water Barrel and essentially Highway 78. That's our Station 2. And then we have a proposed Station 3 location here on Water Barrel, 3R Road and Oldham. The district has determined a need for a new station approximately half-mile east of the current Station 1 on Highway 78, Business Loop, and Fox Lane. This would be, we'll see here in a moment, I'll show an illustration, but this would be essentially just catty-corner from the Beulah School of Natural Sciences, which is a K through 8th school, and obviously one of the assets that we would need to protect. So, as mentioned, the new station should be placed at 3R and Oldham. This map really shows those locations that are served that lie within 4 road miles of a station. So as you can see, we have some coverage up North Creek, some coverage up Highway 78, the main one going up 12 mile to Highway 165. All of 178, Highway 78 from Beulah to Pueblo is covered, with some coverage up Siloam and a very minute amount down 3R. Really, it just extends just barely to the north boundary of that Signal Mountain subdivision. And a lot of those people in that area, once again, these are rather large homes, and in 2016 they faced the Beulah Hill fire right at their back door, literally burnt right into their neighborhood. Many of those homes had previously been dropped by their insurance companies just due to the fire and not being outside that 5-mile deal. So the Homeowners Association for Signal Mountain the HOA has approached Beulah Fire and wants to donate a 1 acre parcel and pay for the construction of a building, which will eventually be turned over to the district. And I'll discuss that further as we go along here. So, I want to touch upon the current Station 1. The current Station 1 was built in 1952 with the inception of the Beulah Volunteer Fire Department. At that time, 1952 standards, the average fire apparatus was 18 feet in length and 6.5 feet tall. So the station was developed in that. It's earthen, it's kind of buried into a hillside, very small parcel land, no room to expand at all. There's literally it's very steep towards the back end of the property, running a lot of water into it. So we've had some wall stability issues on the south wall, with a road grader blade actually holding the wall up and reinforced. It's only capable of holding 4 28-foot pieces of apparatus at essentially 9.5 feet tall. Current standards, modern standards for apparatus, are 32 foot in length and 12 feet tall. So as you can see, just simply because of the door height, we can't even get a 12-foot piece of apparatus in there because it only goes 9.5 feet tall. The district has literally had to turn down 2 pieces of apparatus that were offered to be donated to us, and these were modern 2000 model year pieces of apparatus that would have greatly enhanced our capabilities. So we currently have a single pumper, a rescue truck, and 2 brush trucks housed out of that station, but there is absolutely no facilities for a bathroom. It's just basically a storage area. So the capabilities of that station is really minute, and to add on to it, for one, we don't have the room to improve on the building, and it would just be ineffective. We'd have to meet with ADA standards now and install bathroom, and we don't have that infrastructure available to us. It would be more costly to renovate the building, even if we had the space, and we don't. So recognizing that, and once again the community stepping forward, along with our district, we've created a fire station committee was established, and that committee has representation of one district board representative being our board president, Steve Douglas, multiple fire EMT representatives, and multiple community representatives, including the average Joe off the street. Some of these guys had opposed the fire station design and so forth, and came in to voice their opinion, and we incorporated them. Hey, what is your worries? And they voiced that. We also incorporated people that have financial background. A lot of them work for financial institutions, so they have great ideas on what type of funding are out there. We also have a couple members that are home builders themselves or commercial builders, and they understand some of the lingo and so forth and some of the requirements. The other thing the district did was hired F&D International out of Boulder, Colorado. They have extensive background in station design and funding those stations, finding the funding and so forth, and they handle everything from this analysis, needs analysis, to developing a project plan and plans, conceptual plans and so forth, and finding the funding, what funding is available out there. They're totally aware of ADA requirements and code standards or requirements for fire station construction to include exhaust systems and so forth. We don't even have an exhaust system in our current Station 1 to collect exhaust from fire trucks, and obviously, cancer being a huge problem now, we need to provide those services to our responders, because they help us provide those services that are needed to our public, so we need to take care of them. So the district needs were assessed to determine components required in the station design, and real quickly, obviously, you could see the biggest need once again was that 51%. They came and visited Station 1 and said, wow, this is incredible, you guys can't even fit apparatus in here, which is very true. We're very limited on storage space. It's essentially just a center block room with some doors and area to park a truck in. So the other thing we looked at is office space and training facilities. Currently, the district rents from a a commercial space, office space. We have done so since the inception of the district. Um, that district office is extremely small. It's the only training area that we currently have, and it's only able to accommodate approximately 15. So obviously, with 33 responders, 34 responders with the chief, we can't even meet with our full department staffing there. So once again, we're investing in something that the district will never own. We'll never own those buildings and or that office space. The owner is currently got the property up for sale. If it does happen to sell here soon, the district has nowhere to go. There's absolutely virtually no other commercial properties within our district, being an agricultural ranch-based kind of area, to house our district offices. Obviously, living area was a pretty big need, storage and workout areas as well. The living areas obviously would provide our responders with a place to stay and respond quickly out of, and then obviously a storage for records and so forth, because we have HIPAA that we have to comply with and so forth, and we need to store our bunker gear and so forth in an appropriate way to reduce, once again, those carcinogens and so forth that get embedded in our structure gear. And then obviously workout area, once again, being mostly agricultural area, people in Beulah proper have to travel that full 28 miles to get to Pueblo to go to the nearest gym. So a lot of our responders, it's really difficult to require them to meet physical standards when we can't even provide them with the equipment that they need to work out and so forth. So a new station, those are the needs that we'd have, and obviously apparatus being the space being the number one. So once we establish the actual needs, the committee set out to find a good location, because once again, it's all about location, 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 right? We needed to find something that had the infrastructure available to make the fire station viable, basically, good road access, to improved roads that, a lot of our roads are dirt and so forth and are not always maintained by the county. So, looking at something like the Highway 78 was a huge thing, because we guarantee that those roads are going to be maintained and snow removed during the winter and so forth. So that's a huge thing for us. So after looking at multiple parcels or multiple site locations throughout the valley, we came to the 6-acre plot that was decided upon to be the site for our new Station 1. This site was donated by Mr. Sellers, the owner of Pine Drive Telephone Company and longtime resident of Beulah. His family obviously owns, as mentioned, the Pine Drive Telephone Company, and their offices are located just to the east of. This is the site of the new proposed site of the station, with his offices being here, and this here right on the corner of North Creek and Highway 78 being the state Colorado Department of Transportation maintenance shop there. This is Beulah School. This would be Fox Lane, Highway 78 continuing up. So you can see that we have access down Fox Lane to the south, North Creek to the north, and then Highway 78 both east and west. And that really gives us a great paved road that's maintained year-round. The site is relatively flat, requiring the soil samples and so forth that obtained showed great soil composition, requiring minimal excavation of the site. The only downfall is this site does not have current water. We were examining having to drill a well or in place a cistern. But after further examination, we actually noticed that we're just not very far from the last municipal water tap, basically. So we're looking at tapping into that, which once again, Mr. Sellers has offered to donate the money, the equipment, and manpower to actually extend that line from its current location down to the fire station site, to his property at the office, the state highway department, and would essentially allow for the looping or the connection of the Pine Drive Telephone Company and the Beulah, the Pine Drive Water District and the Beulah Water District into one water district, which would greatly enhance services to the citizens of Beulah and reduce some of that redundancy with only having one water district. And in 2002, we witnessed a really severe drought, which uh, required a declaration of emergency by the governor of Colorado, which allowed for Colorado State Department of Transportation water tenders and Pueblo County Road and Bridge water tenders to haul water up to us, because literally the three creeks we have access to for water supply for the valley um, literally dried up. So they were having to haul water up, dump them into our storage tank up on the mountain, which gravity feeds down to the town for treatment for distribution to the residents. So that lasted for approximately a month before we got rainfall and got the creeks flowing again. The other thing too that would really benefit with this extension of the water line, the school currently has a hydrant located right in this area, but that hydrant is only supplied with a 2.5-inch line, which is drastically too small for the demands there. So that extension would also allow for the replacement of that hydrant with a hydrant that's supplied with a 6-inch line, um, and would better serve the Beulah school, obviously. So the next thing, after finding the land and so forth, we looked at the interior design. We went through several renditions of design, first being essentially a design with a one wing over here for crew quarters and fire department type offices and so forth. A bay here, and in office areas that were available to the public and so forth. That just was too expensive. Our original design was $3.8 million. After a lot of work between the concerned citizens and our designers and so forth, we refined our design to include basically one wing that it allowed access for community, our crew quarters and fire department quarters in the back, which are able to be secured from the rest of the building, and obviously our office space for our fire chief and responders and so forth, our daily actions. So this station essentially would eliminate the need for the renting of the current office space at $7,800 a year. It also would allow for Pueblo County Sheriff's deputies to have a satellite office where they can come in and conduct interviews and do required paperwork and make phone calls and essentially have a place with facilities where they can use the restroom. Once 7:30 hits and the general store closes in Beulah, there's unless you're stopping at a resident's home to use their and knocking on their door to see if you can use the restroom, there's virtually no access to any public restrooms in the area. So with having available office space to the deputies, we would see increased presence of deputies, because a lot of times they just simply do not want to come out here in the evenings. So that would help our law enforcement partners get a little bit better coverage in the Beulah area, which would result in better service to the citizens. Once again, you can see it's a four bay pull through bay design, which would greatly enhance its designed. The entire building is designed to last 40 to 50 years serviceability to the members of the community, and they really spoke up. They saw this and they saw a need with what we educated them with. We had a huge public education outreach, informing them why we need this station, and open up our doors at Station 1 and let them come in. And literally people, when they ask to use the restroom, we don't have a restroom, they see the need, and all of our trucks are backed up and immediately up against the wall with no room to walk around them and so forth. It's when you have to open a door to actually walk around a truck, it's just it's not conducive to what we need. So this was designed to accommodate new modern day equipment, and that's what we look to fill the station with. This is the exterior design. Obviously, you can see in this design, it's essentially a red iron steel structure with sheeted with metal outbuilding or metal siding. However, once again, as we go along and as construction costs, when we get closer to actual building of the building and so forth, we may make this a little more aesthetically pleasing. But we have multiple of these buildings throughout the area in Beulah and so forth. So it's not something that's going to be opposed by the public, and a lot of them actually think it's a really neat design. We have windows. These windows would be facing towards the east and allowing capturing sunlight and so forth throughout the year. As you can see, roof lines are away from these doors. The current station one, we have snow that drops right in front of the doors, and that hinders our response. Often we have to clean snow and ice before we can even pull apparatus out, as it would actually throw the trucks over their height and literally result in trucks hitting the top of knocking off emergency lighting and stuff off the roof or denting it and so forth. So this design would shed snow off to either side instead of in front of the bay doors. Sorry about that. Had a little problem with me. The next thing, new Station 1 budget and funding. I'm not going to go through the whole breakdown, but essentially the total project cost is $2.7 million, accounting for $205.13 per square foot. Funding is going to come through several avenues. Obviously, the first one being the Citizen Improved 9.0 mill levy increase. The next thing we've looked at is the long-term low-interest loan through the Fowler National Bank. This loan will allow basically the borrowing of that full $2.7 million, and then the taxpayers providing that 9 mill levy increase, which would generate estimated $2.3 million, if I recall, on our current projections of assessed land values, on the current assessed land values for 2016. We're only going to see those increase, and we're seeing a rapid increase in amount of homes being built, which is probably attributing to our increase in call volume and so forth over the past few years. The next thing too is we've been looking at multiple grants, one of them being the DOLA grant. That's going to come in two phases. Phase 1 is going to be $200,000 for underground utility and foundation. That was applied for in late 2016 in December, and we're looking at anticipated any day now we could be hearing of that award, and we anticipate that award. Phase 2, once we get broke ground and so forth, would be another $200,000 for interior finishing. So obviously you can see that $400,000 would essentially take us down to that $2.3 million. What the taxpayers have approved over a 25-year time before that sunsets, that mill levy sunsets. We're also looking at in-kind donations. As of December of 2016, we'd already received $105,000 in verbal commitments. Obviously, we got the land donated to us, which was a huge thing. But also, even Mr. Sellers, once again, has donated or verbalized his willingness to donate manpower and money and so forth to get that water line extension, as it would benefit him as well. However, we've had multiple other construction companies and concrete companies and so forth who've voiced verbal commitment that they will help us out, and we've only seen that increase. So all that stuff there will obviously reduce the amount that we're going to go for in the loan through Fowler National Bank, which would be at a rate currently at 4.25%, and would reduce the amount of money that we would have to pay back through that mill levy. The Station 3 design and budget really is, this building is going to be essentially, I would call it a doghouse almost, but it's going to be a storage building. It'd be have electricity. It's going to be an all metal structure with heat and so forth, obviously, to keep the truck from freezing, but it's going to have really virtually no, won't have a restroom or anything like that. It's just going to house a fire truck. The monies needed for this Station 3 project, none of them will come from district funds. It's all going to be supplied by the Signal Mountain Home Owners Association through donations that they gather and so forth. They've already gotten the 1 acre lot of land plot for the construction, and they're working on getting that building up and going. So once it's constructed in 2017, that property and structure will be turned over to the district once final payments have been made by by the Signal Mountain Homeowners Association, and that building's actually constructed. So once that's constructed, then the district will be responsible for actually fairly minimal utility costs in the way of heating it and keeping like the lights on and so forth. But those through insulation and so forth, those heating costs can be reduced, and we're looking at probably less than $1,000 in utilities per year. The station will house a four-wheel drive Type 6 wildland urban interface engine that will be a cooperative effort between the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. Basically, they've dispersed several of these engines throughout the state, and we will just have to ensure that if the state were to need it on a response, that it's available with responders and so forth. But that gets our responders out there too, and helps the rest of the communities around us. This engine will provide both structure fire and wildland fire capabilities, as well as be equipped with basic life support EMS. And it will be staffed with volunteer members that live right there in the Signal Mountain subdivision and along 3R Road. So many times we have responders that have to drive by a incident to Beulah to only pick up apparatus to respond right back to that location. So having a truck down there serving that area would greatly enhance response times and capabilities in that area. And Oldham Road would give access to the west and back into Beulah over Oldham, and south down 3R or north up 3R to Highway 78. The acquisition of water tenders is the next thing we're going to discuss. Once again, we need two 3,000-gallon water tender pumpers with a minimum of 1,500-gallon pumps. So those are some of the specs along with other stuff. One has already been donated by the U.S. Army and currently housed at the Public Chemical Depot. It is fully equipped. It's currently empty, been winterized and so forth, but unfortunately it's sitting outside. But we don't have access to that being on a secured military facility. We can't just drive out and pick it up and fill it with water and use it for response. The only reason it's there is we don't have a place for it to be housed, and the Army is kind enough to house it there until we get our Station 1 completed. So that just further enhances the reason we need to get that. We're fortunate enough to get that, and they were able to store it, whereas those other previous donations we had, they weren't able to store it for us, and so we have one accounted for there. The second will be funded through a FEMA Assistance of Firefighter grant, is what we're hoping. That was applied for in 2016 with an expected award in late spring of 2017 for a total of $375,000. But that comes with a fully equipped 1,500-gallon per minute pumper. And this truck not only has the capability to fight structure fires or wildland fires and haul water to scenes, but also has the further capability of purifying up to 30 to 35 gallons per minute of water. So we could essentially take flood waters from our creeks, from the Junkins fire that's coming down North Creek, fill our tank, and literally purify that water, that silted, contaminated water, into potable water. And through calculations, we've determined that truck purifying 30 to 35 gallons per minute would actually be able to supply the entire town of Beulah with the required amount that they use on an average day for their total water usage for the 2 water districts. So that there has been just a great sale point. It greatly enhances the capabilities, and it's a multifunctional piece of apparatus that can be used throughout the county. We also, Pueblo County Sheriff's Department actually has one of these trucks they just took delivery of with the same pump, and it's worked great, and they've already used it a couple times on some incidents. However, let me back up. However, if we don't get that grant, we can absorb that cost into the cost of the building as approved by the voters in the verbiage of the ballot in the 2016 ballot issue that they approved. So that engine will be, or that water tender / pumper will be acquired once the station is constructed and so forth. Right now, I'm going to stop and fix something real quick. Okay, so in 2000, we're looking at the 2016 budget review now. Obviously, I'm not going to read this to you, but this column shows us the 2006 income, which totals $423,095, and the total 2016 expenses, which totals the same amount of $423,095. I'm not going to break down each one of these. I do want to highlight that the grant income here at $108,012. Sorry, it's hard for me to see, but that was a great increase over the previous years. Our grants have just been, we've been applying for nearly every grant out there, but this year we were able to acquire grant funds through FEMA and Colorado State funding to acquire brand new PPE for all responders in the way of structure gear, and also 16 SCBAs, which are MSA Gen 1 with spare cylinders. Previously, we only had 6 SCBAs throughout serving the whole district, and those were all housed on engines up at Station 1 in Beulah. So that allows us to get the minimum amount of SCBAs required on each one of our apparatus, structure engines, and so forth, with 4 spares. So that was a huge advancement, and the Gen 1s we've been very happy with, and all of our members are very happy having new, more modern structure gear, and that has greatly enhanced the safety provided to our responders and their capabilities that they are able to go with there. Next, I want to look at the standard operating guidelines. Obviously, we established a comprehensive standard operating guidelines in January of 2013 with the inception of Beulah Fire Protection District. Those are reviewed and updated annually as deemed necessary by the fire chief. They're issued to all responders, all board members, and our district attorney, and all SOGs undergo a mandatory 30-day review period prior to adoption. In the event of an emergency change or addition, the fire chief will issue a memorandum of direction until proper development and approval of the SOG is completed. And that's happened here recently with in 2016 with the recent fires that are going to result in flooding and so forth. So we had to put some new SOGs in place in support of the flooding plan that we've developed with Polk County. All members are made aware that SOGs are guidelines. They're simply there to guide them and help them through stuff. And should they get into a gray area, which we can't cover everything with our SOGs that our responders may face, but there's certainly challenges out there they're going to face, and they may not have that guidance through the SOGs. So utilizing their best judgment, guided by previous training and experience, they're going to get through those issues, and we really just highlight that to our responders. They do have the ability to make their informed decisions based on what they already know. And if they don't know, they need to, we encourage them to, you can just stand back and refuse risk and ensure that safety's upheld. So in conclusion, times are changing. We either change with them or simply fall into the dark. And that was as stated by Boone Fire Chief John Sigler, who's just a great man. He's the chief of a similar department who's seen some great successes here recently. And that's one of his favorite sayings. So the district must construct new infrastructure to meet national standards, and as supported by already approved public support through mill levy increases. So our public has spoke up. They said they want this. They see that we need this. We have this need, and we need to continue on with the process. And we just need to ensure that we uphold that mission statement that I read earlier in providing timely response and the highest quality response that we can to our citizens. So the construction of the new stations and acquisition of apparatus, obviously the new Station 1 will allow for the acquisition of new modern fire apparatus with increased safety and response capabilities not currently supported with the current Station 1. So that's a huge plus, and really everything else kind of falls. The acquisition of those water tenders obviously relies on the construction of that new station. The improvement in our ISO, same thing. The better training of our personnel, more community involvement, all that stuff really is determinant on that. The getting out of that rented office space and so forth. That's all required under that Station 1. It allows us to add, this new station, and the addition of Station 3 will allow us to add apparatus to residents only accessible by the 3R road, not currently within the 5-mile road distance from any Beulah Fire Protection District station. So it really helps us enhance that and our capabilities in those areas, and allows for the reduction of ISO, and hopefully those people that lost their homeowners insurance in Signal Mountain can regain more competitive, better premiums for their properties. It allows for quicker response times with crew quarters. Having the crews right there in the station, able to hop up and go do their job is critical. It allows for better, less cramped training facilities, which will also support community events. It's a dual-purpose room there. The public has access to their own restrooms. They have access to a great training, or a great facility with lots of windows, and it's comfortable and so forth, that we can do, and it would enhance our public education through CPR courses that we can hold there and so forth. Meetings. A lot of people I've heard don't even like going to the district meetings because it's so cramped. So, allow for more, encourage more involvement from the community, whether it be negative or positive. I know the district, we don't always do things right, but we need to hear from our citizens, and we want to hear from them. In the best settings, often those district offices or district meetings, for their voices to be heard. So it allows for Pueblo County Sheriff's Office satellite post for the deputies to conduct required work, and further enhances law enforcement response times in the area. It reduces wasteful spending on rental properties, as mentioned earlier. We can use that $7,800 for a lot of our other projects. It improves ISO ratings for all residents of the district. It would allow for better service capabilities and reduced response times, as mentioned before. It allows for a consolidation of resources instead of having things spread out all over the place. Literally, we have, between Station 1 and the proposed Station 1, we have 2 other facilities, being the district office here and the Beulah School, where we house our medic unit. So literally, if you go to do rig checks, that's not going to have an apparatus within a quarter of a mile of each other. It doesn't serve anybody any better than having them. That consolidation just really reduces and streamlines the workload of our responders and so forth. The other thing it does is it gives us better security. So in 2016, we had some narcotics that were stolen out of our med unit. Once again, because that's an unmanned station, and a lot of people have access to the school and stuff. There's really, the building itself is just a wood framed structure. People are able to kick the door in, and that's exactly what they did, and were able to breach the double lock security that we had, and were able to obtain some narcotics. And so we need to better secure, making our community safer and our responders safer. And really, the last thing is, it's just the right thing to do in support of that mission statement that has been adopted, and it's the right thing to do. So I hope we can get continued support from the district and the community and meet the objectives of constructing a new fire station in the year of 2017 and the acquisition of two new 2,000-gallon water, or excuse me, 3,000-gallon water tenders, and also the acquisition of a new Station 3 serving 3R Road um, to improve ISO ratings and better serve all the citizens. So I appreciate being allowed to speak this evening, and I hope you have a great one. Thank you.